The importance of dreams, the importance of education, the power to dream, and how it influences education. My dear listeners of Radio Udaan, I'm a RJ Babuji Janak Rajan, welcoming you back to the latest episode of the Great Indian Monologue. In this episode, I'm going to share with you the story of a man, an extraordinary man, powered by a dream, who translated his dream into a beautiful reality, which did wonders in a huge territory. He belonged to a tribal community. Okay, like many tribes living in earth peacefully for thousands of years, his tribes also went along doing the work as business as usual, and the only language they ever knew was a spoken language. Like many other tribes, the period I'm talking about is the late 1700s and the beginning of 1800s. To be more precise, 1800 to 1820. So there is this boy who was born into a tribal family, and as it goes in the olden days, the tribes were more or less distributed or disintegrated. Like a group of them would live in a particular terrain, and another group might have migrated to a distant terrain a while back, and they would have continued living there, and so on. So it was like his tribe was spread across multiple regions, all of them having a common spoken language, but no script was available. But communication with them was quite difficult. How do you communicate, without reaching the distant places in person? And he was aware that many other tribes and many other people all over the world had what was known as written scripts or written languages. So he wanted to develop one for his own tribe. It was not an easy task. To give you an idea or the magnitude of how big an achievement this was, or how big an aim this was, only few languages had a written script invented in the last 300 years. Only very few. Almost all the languages for which we have the scripts to write were developed a long time back, even thousands of years back. So this was a monumental ask, or a monumental task, or a dream, or a vision. But he was gung-ho about it. He wanted to do that somehow. And he started spending time, because he was a very good native speaker. He understood the nuances of the language like the really old people who were living around. And he started meticulously planning to identify how to make that possible. Because the moment you think about a script, whatever may be your mother tongue, you may know that we have alphabets and letters which can be grouped together to sound different words which have different meaning, and sentences could be formed using these words. But it was quite difficult for an illiterate person, because for the very fact that they had only spoken language, he didn't know how to read or write. There was no need, but he wanted to develop something from the scratch. So what he did first was he identified the sounds which were used by his tribe, and he tried to group them. This sound, it means that, and this sound, it means that. And for each and every sound, he defined his own unique symbol. With that, symbol after symbol, year after year, painstakingly, he put together a syllabary. A syllabary is basically the basic grammar with the letters and how to use them. He spent about a decade in developing this, and finally, when he gained enough confidence, he started talking about this to his own tribe. But people didn't believe him, because they were quite skeptical that somebody could do this, or somebody could even attempt this. So they booed him, they derided him, but he was adamant that he could prove it to anybody and everybody that his script works and it can cause magic. What was this magic? He didn't explain to them at that point in time, but he had that as a much larger vision, which I will cover in the next few minutes after I share with you what really happened to his script. So one day, with a lot of difficulty, he convinced the elders to arrange for a meeting where he threw them a challenge. The challenge was he would narrate a story to an elder in a particular room through a script. The elder would listen to the story, then carry the script to a person sitting in some 3 tents away who didn't have any idea about the story, but who was educated by our man to read and write the new syllabary that he developed. So the challenge was, if the other person is able to read and retell the story as told by our hero to the man who carried the script, then it would be a success. So the elders accepted the challenge. He narrated a small story and he gave the script to them. He said, this script is a story. Whatever I told you, I've written it in the script. Go and give it to that other person. So they faithfully carried that and delivered it to the other person who was sitting in a distant tent. And within minutes, that person was able to read through the script and reproduce a story, by telling them exactly what was written, which matched word by word with what our hero said. They were stunned. Then our man, his name is Sequoia, and the tribe he belonged to was a Red Indian tribe, like one of the ancient tribal groups in India. This was an ancient tribal group in the United States of America, which was known as Cherokee Nation. Cherokee is one of the biggest tribes in America. He belonged to a section of the tribe, and armed with the script, he told them, see, this makes communication easier. If you want to communicate to the tribes, our own tribes who are spread across the land at distant places, we don't have to travel anymore. We just have to send this message. They will be able to read this. With this, we can exchange ideas, we can share our worries, we can share our expectations, and it will do wonders. The information slowly started spreading through the tribes and then through all the areas where the Cherokee people lived. And you won't believe me, within 25 years, the entire Cherokee nation achieved 100% literacy. Not even a feat achieved by the white people who were colonizing the whole of America at a rapid clip. Not even they were able to have this kind of a literary rate, but these people were able to achieve it just because they were armed with a script which made reading and writing easier, which made communicating of ideas much, much easier. Just 25 years. And it also kind of started uniting the split factions of the Cherokee tribes. And this man, Sequoia, his grander dream was unify all the Cherokee tribes under one nation called Cherokee Nation. And he moved towards that goal steadily while negotiating with the white people about the land settlement, which they were wanting to allocate to the native Indians, in the sense, the white people would colonize their lands and allocate them a different land instead. So all these people would have to migrate. And because, Sequoia was literate, he was sent to negotiate and even sign some treaties with the white people. And meanwhile, he kept traveling to all the terrains where his own tribes lived, including neighboring countries. It was quite a difficult task in those times, some 300 years back, traveling from one country to another country by means of horseback, just to convince the people in the other side of the world that they belong to the same tribe and they could read and write the same language to communicate ideas, which would basically unify the people. Language has that kind of a power, and he knew that, and he wanted to harness that. His efforts started yielding results, and after some 15-20 years, he was able to bring down the number of factions to just 2, and he found an able friend in the other faction too, which means he representing one part of the faction, his friend representing the other part of the faction, and they moved together to sign a treaty of unification which brought the whole nation together, and it resulted in the declaration of the Cherokee Nation. This was well before the white people ran over them by tricks and deceits, by cunning means, and most of the Red Indians were killed. But the indomitable spirit of an individual illiterate who wanted to change the history and geography of his land forever, he did succeed with perseverance. So, my dear friends of Radio Udaan, my dear listeners of Radio Udaan, education is a very important tool. Dreaming is a birthright, regardless of in which creed or which race or which skin color or which community, which caste, which religion you're born into. Your power to dream is unlimited. It can't even be compared with the dreaming power of other people, like would it be same like that person, this person. Everybody has unimaginable scope to dream, and with an able tool like education, realizing the dream becomes very much possible. So Sequoia proved it beyond any doubt, and that is why he is remembered as the only guy in the last many hundred years who invented a script that united a whole country, his country. My dear friends of Radio Udaan, my dear listeners of Radio Udaan, I'm your RJ Babuji Janak Rajan, signing off the latest episode of the Great Indian Monologue with this. And in a short while, I'll talk to you yet again with another important, interesting, humane, and meaningful story. Till then, stay blessed, stay hungry, stay happy. Bye-bye.